Good. So we'll kind of go in order, so we've got some order to it. One question at a time, go back and forth. That's okay. This is a real obvious follow-up to a question. But we've got time. Okay? Good? You're good. Okay. All right. Let us know if you can't hear very well.
So last night at the media dinner, there was a lot of talk about the growth of RootsTech. What are some of the big things that you feel have attributed to RootsTech and its growth internationally?
Well, I think Steve can join in. I think one of the things was the pandemic. We were only a local in-person event up until 2021, and then because we couldn't meet in person, we had to figure out how to do it online. So we held that first ever virtual RootsTech in 2021 and had over 1 million people show up, and we were kind of surprised by that. And so then in 2022 we had a little over 3 million people, and then last year over 4 million people online, and then last year we added the in-person component back. So really it's become an international global event, partly because of the pandemic. I wish the pandemic on us again, but there's blessings in everything. So,
Elder Hamilton, you suggested a Billion Graves project to Joseph Miller, as state president in Iowa, and it was a huge success. We gathered over 2.6 million records from that project, and they've all now, as of a couple of days ago, been shared with Family Search. We're really excited about that, and just like to know, how could this kind of success be replicated with the help of Family Search?
So Brother Miller, President Miller, was a stake president in Iowa, and I was there visiting, and he was looking for a project that his stake could engage in, and we talked about a few things, and finally I said, why don't you check with Billion Graves? They know scale, they know they have the technology to do large projects. All of these sorts of things work if the local priesthood leaders drive it. That doesn't work very well from headquarters, but if you have somebody that's passionate on the ground that can really coordinate it and get the interfaith effort out and all the other community members involved, then this is very replicable, but it takes local leadership.
Sure, so I think the basis of my question is, how do we get the word out to those local leaders?
Yeah, we'll work on that. I think it has to come through church channels. I mean, again, whenever it comes from us as a department, it's less effective. When it comes from Quorum of the 12, Area 70, or Presidency of the 70 to area presidencies, then that tends to flow better. So we're looking at President Miller's project, and we'll figure out ways to get that word out.
Excellent. We'd love to have that happen, and we plan to send over a report to you.
From your perspective, it was positive?
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yes. He was wonderful to work with, and the numbers tell the answer.
Yeah. He was going to be here this weekend.
He was.
But had a death in the family or something.
His mother passed away. Today is his 11th birthday. He was a leap year baby.
Oh.
So he was an outstanding leader and helped to connect not only with the church community, but also to the community at large, and involve 5 African American churches. And
you could do us a favor. Could you write a little synopsis for us, and then get that to Steve or me, and let us run with that a bit.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
So last night at the media dinner, we had to fill out a little piece of paper with what we're looking for, and I'll get to that in just a second. But during the tech forum this morning, you presented the Family Search presented the AI text search capability, and it's really fantastic. I tried it on my phone, and it worked really well.
Good.
What I'm asking for, and this is what I put in the question, is when will we have on-demand AI text search, where we can pull up a document and have it then translate that into English or even into the native language?
Well, that's a great question. I don't know the answer. As we mentioned, we're really learning at this point. We have a roadmap. I do know, like we did with Get Involved, we want to be able to do everything on demand. So I'm sure it's on the roadmap.
The theme of RootsTech is remember. So how do you suggest to people that are not genealogists how to engage them in remembering?
That's our favorite audience, if you will, when it comes to remember, because there's so many things they can do in their home, within their own family, and if they so decide, they can actually digitize that by recording. So we have a number of tools throughout the whole industry. Ancestry has wonderful tools that they can use, and many of those you can enter and start doing for free. We have our memories within FamilySearch.org, and one of the unknown jewels, I believe, is the Memories app. And it's a wonderful app that anyone can download. It's free, and I love it because all you have to do is you say, okay, if I want to capture it right now, I don't have to go to a tree, I'm not curating anything, but it's happening right now. I can add a photo, I can add an audio, I can add a story. It's been the lifesaver for me with my 92-year-old mother, because if I were to schedule a time to meet with Mom, she gets so nervous. But now, with her permission, I just ask her a question, put the phone on the table, she starts to talk, and we're able to capture the memories. It's really
More
capturing
spontaneous.
those, very, very spontaneous, extremely easy. What will happen, and now I have to go curate that, which is great. I don't mind doing that. But with generative AI, there will be a time when all of our solutions will be automatically curated, storyized, and published. So we can't wait for that to happen.
I think also we just are in the early days of taking audio stories using AI technology to pull out tree and genealogy information. And we just did this pilot in Mexico where we took 1,000 stories and were able to build trees from those stories, human hands untouched, using AI. So this is very early days, but there's a whole wealth of stuff coming.
Does it convert the text to text?
It does.
Speech to text, but then
Yeah.
text to conceptual data. Like this is a father, this is a mother, these are children, that kind of stuff. And then you can build trees from that because
Right.
you've got the information.
Right.
So with that test, we used the Memories app,
Yeah.
and it was fun because, as you know, in Mexico and throughout Latin America, they have Dia de Muertos, and so they were literally just looking at photos of those that they were remembering that day,
Talking about their ancestors.
and they were just talking about the ancestors, and they captured with the Memories app, and then in our labs pre-launch with you, we were able to then test that and apply the AI, and we were incredibly impressed that not only did it convert, as we mentioned, speech to text, but it actually could pull out who the different individuals are and their relationships. Yeah, great question. Thank you.
So now I have a couple of questions, but I'll start with this one. How have you seen temple and family history work grow with youth coming into young women and young men earlier, like when they're 11 years old?
Yeah, one of our fastest growing demographics is youth. We track submitters. That's kind of our main metric. Number of people that submitted a name to the temple. And last year was our biggest year ever for all members of the church, and also our biggest year ever for youth. We had about 16% of all the youth in the church that submitted names to the temple last year, and that keeps rising every year. So my experience with youth is they like this. They enjoy the challenge. It's kind of a problem-solving exercise. They like the technology. They're not afraid of the technology. When adults have questions about our products, I say, go talk to your grandkids. They'll tell you what to do.
It's been a journey for us to learn. So many of you who have been involved for a long time, you know, when we first introduced indexing a long time ago, the youth really gravitated to that. It was something, number one, they could do. They could do it socially. They were digital natives. I was always surprised what a wonderful spirit they felt when they were doing this very clerical thing. And then from there we went to photos and stories. We thought, you know what, they really want to get involved with the photos, the stories, not just the names, dates, and places. And that was a great success. And we were just trying to involve them, especially if they didn't live near a temple or if they weren't temple motivated. But I will tell you, in the time now with President Nelson announcing temples all over the world, we always now begin with covenants and ordinances. It's wonderful to do indexing, it's wonderful to do photos and stories, but we now cut to the chase with starting with the Savior and binding ourselves and binding those that we love to him through covenants and ordinances. And Ordinances Ready has been a great manifestation of that, because the first thing, when you hit Ordinances Ready, what's the first thing you see? A picture of the Savior. Then the ordinance, and then the name, and then they can just view relationship or view person. Now that name transforms into a real person. They see the connection, and by the way, now they can make an appointment to the temple, print the card, or take the QR code. So we totally flipped the sequence. It used to be start with family history, end with performing ordinance in the temple, and then when you perform with the temple, you will then bind yourself to the Savior. Now we literally turned that upside down 180 degrees.
But
What is the most important thing you've learned about yourselves from doing your family history?
it's true confessions time. During the pandemic, which was hard on everybody, hard on our grandkids, they were on online school and they were all, elementary age, junior high school age. My wife found a story about her great-grandfather here in Salt Lake City during the Spanish flu influenza pandemic, when they actually locked down and quarantined, and they talked about how hard it was for them. And we went and shared that with our grandkids, and we said, look, you can do hard things. Your great-grandparents did hard things. You can do hard things. And I think that was a very uplifting takeaway for them. We have a lot of data. There's a study out of Emory University that we quote frequently about when children know their family story, when they know their narrative, statistically they're much more emotionally resilient. They're able to deal with challenges better than those that don't know their family story. And so I think there's something to that. As we learn about our ancestors and what they did and what they went through and the challenges that they faced, we're able to be emotionally much stronger than otherwise.
My experience is the exact same as Elder Hamilton's, and that is the power this can have for young people, and really needing to honor their role as the digital natives, and not just have them participate, but really lead out. Ezra Taft Benson said years ago in the 80s that not only young people can participate in temple and family history work, they'll bring life and vitality to it. And it's that life and vitality that I just stand up amazed. I just wish we could just hand it over to them and let them go at it.
I didn't think I was going to get a turn. I didn't hear exactly what she asked, and I think I was going to ask the same thing, so I just switch it to, what's your favorite technology? Over all the years that you've been doing, what's the one that's made you the most excited? It doesn't have to be a current one, you know what I mean? Like, which one made you the most excited with family history?
I think the game changer is probably personal computers, maybe internet-connected personal computers, or all of a sudden, if you'll recall what we used before the internet, it was personal ancestral file, PAF, and the challenge with PAF was we had people working on their ancestry, working on their family trees, but not communicating with anybody else, and so we had a lot of duplicate temple ordinances, because good-intentioned people would submit names for ordinances, not knowing that somebody else had already done the ordinance. So duplicate ordinances with the internet and with the public tree, that's gone almost to zero. We almost don't see that anymore, and that's all a technology breakthrough there. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to be a bit of a geek here. It's a server technology that we don't talk a lot about that allowed us to actually produce hits. So when we were able to take records, see what's happening in your trees, see what you want or what you're asking for, make algorithms and deliver that to you in a nice little bow on a Sunday morning, and do that for millions of people at the same time, that one really, really got me excited because now we were becoming part of your daily life.
Yeah, I would just add one other. Cloud computing's been a game changer. When we had the ability to put all of our computing processes in the cloud, whether it's Azure or Amazon Web Services or Oracle or whatever we use, and we use them all of a sudden we had infinite scale. We could grow as fast as we wanted to grow because we didn't have to build data servers every time we turned around. And that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was. I'll never forget that presentation. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a big technology kind of a change of heart because all of a sudden those constraints went away.
We showed a traffic jam on Sunday morning, which you don't have in real life, but you do at Family Search online, and then we were able to show if you can lease lanes when you need them, and then give them back when you don't. It was a huge game changer for us.
Yeah, that was a big technology. Yeah. Please.
Well, my question kind of piggybacks on something that they've asked already. How can the Family Search website specifically be used to help kids that are suffering from pandemic isolation and haven't quite recovered since being back in school?
Yeah, I'll give you kind of a gospel-centered answer, knowing that our audience is not all members of our faith. But when any age, young, old, any age, when they begin to think about, talk about, document, organize their ancestors or their tree, there is a spiritual feeling that comes, and it's very predictable. In our church vocabulary, we refer to it as the spirit of Elijah, but it's actually just this spiritual experience. And I had a guy yesterday, he was not a member of our faith, and he was actually an archivist in Austria. He said to me, I do this because it makes me feel good. He says, I feel something. It's a spiritual experience. That's why I'm in this business. And I thought, I think it's a very replicable, very predictable experience. Whenever anybody begins to interact with their family, even their deceased family, there's a feeling that comes. And so we see that with our youth, the rising generation. In 2011, Elder David A. Bednar gave a talk called The Hearts of the Children Shall Turn. And famously, that's when he said, your thumbs were not made to text and tweet. They were made to engage in the work of Temple and Family History. And subsequent to that, at the time we had almost no youth involved. Last year we had almost 200,000 youth involved. There's been this big upswell in 11 to 18-year-olds that are engaged in family history and enjoying it, having a great experience. They feel something. It brings value and light and positive energy into their lives. So every youth could have that experience.
I got here late, so I don't know if this has been asked already. But do you see Family Search integrating with DNA in any way? Has that already been asked?
No, it hasn't.
Okay.
It hasn't.
Yeah, that's a good question.
It's a wonderful question. Once again, our whole purpose is to help people discover, gather, and connect their families, and we simply do that by asking, how can we help? Right now, what we do is we go to the DNA providers and we ask them, how can we help them? I think for a very good reason, it's not something that we're actively pursuing. I don't think you'll be seeing any Family Search kits being sent out there because the DNA providers today are doing a fabulous job with what they're doing. And so we just want to know how we can help, and therefore we do love to provide assistance to people in our Family Search centers, online, with RootsTech and other resources. We're here to help you interpret and find out more about that DNA test.
And the DNA business itself is quite complex. Compliance with all the laws in every country, data security, biodata security, it's very complicated. And so we've chosen to engage, but through them. And so they'll be the ones actually doing the saliva samples and getting all that data. We're going to work with them to figure out how do we build the tree using that data. I would just add on the DNA comment, we estimate that there's somewhere around 30 to 40% of humanity that has a written record. That means there's 60% that don't. And so how does DNA fit into that? we're going to find out, but there's got to be some sort of a inspired solution there.
And we'll be there with our specific role.
Thank you.
Good question.
Trent, go ahead.
So you mentioned the archivist in Austria. How has the church's developing relationships with archives helped to further the work of family history and gathering lots of records for temple work?
So we have a long history of working with archives. Our model for many decades was capture the data on microfilm and physically own the data, which is a model that doesn't fit every archive. Some archives are resistant to actually give their data away. Others aren't, but some are. With the advent of the internet and with the advent of cloud computing and with our modern technology, we've kind of switched our focus now. We don't need to own all the data. We can just provide access to the data. So an archive in Austria can be the repository of the data. It's their website, it's their data, they own it, they secure it, and then we provide access. We maybe create an index on our site and provide direct access to that data, and that has been a game changer. So all of a sudden doors are opening which previously were closed, where people are saying, yeah, I'm not willing to give you my data, but I'm very happy to share my data, especially if you point traffic to my website, which we're good at. You know, we got millions of people a day coming to our website. We're good at pointing traffic. So our role and interaction with archivists has never been stronger because we have a more sustainable approach to it now than we used to.
I also say, with our perspective, we believe that the archivists are inspired. We believe that there's a special place in heaven for them, that professionally and or otherwise, anyone that's preserving these names and preserving these stories, there's a special place for them. And so following Elder Hamilton's leadership there, we make sure that they know how much we honor and respect them. Just as we've always done with the genealogists, the librarians, the societies, there's a special place for them. And so we know that they'll be blessed, and so it's our job just to let them know what's available. When we ask them how can we help, they're beginning to seek our help, and we want to honor their role more than anything.
Just one quick question. With how quickly AI is moving and progressing, how does Family Search kind of vet the different programs so that you know that truth is coming from that technology?
That's one reason why you saw us open up labs during the conference here. It's going to be, we're going to do it through learning by doing, learning through counsel, learning through discernment, and there are already safeguards and guardrails in place. Plus, we love the work that we're able to do with the drivers of the industry. We have a very close relationship with Microsoft, with Google and others, and this is a great place for them to apply that. So we will learn things. There will be some places where we skin our knees and that, but as you can imagine, we have really good guardrails to keep us in check, but to keep it at the velocity that it needs to go.
Time for 3 more questions.
So I know that Family Search, you guys allow other companies to access the data and build their applications off of that data. What do you think is the most interesting piece of some of these programs that are coming out? We see a lot of them here in RootsTech, but what do you think personally is the most interesting piece that's being developed off of the RootsTech platform or the Family Search platform?
Don't misinterpret this as me being politically correct. I really couldn't tell you, because the one wonderful thing I like about the people that are using the API is that they are servicing a very specific niche, a very specific capability, and we welcome that and love that. And so I actually love the diversity of it.
One maybe just big umbrella area that we're we're very interested in, as are most of our vendors here, is story. Because once you take data to story, then it becomes much more engaging, and a whole new audience opens up. So a lot of people are taking our data and creating story using AI or other means. I think that whole umbrella of story has got a lot of room for growth, and we're very supportive of that.
And story is a major engagement and empowering tool for young people. So I mean, we are here to nourish the temple with names for those of members of the church. We're here to grow many different family trees and to help in any way that we can do that. And we're here to really empower young people so that they can lead out and bring the families, gathering families together. So any of the APIs that allow us to do those three things. Anything else?
RootsTech going back to London.
You know, actually, we had kind of a plan to maybe regionalize RootsTech around. This virtual RootsTech has kind of made us pause a bit. We can take that same dollar that we spend in London and get to a lot more people on an international online platform. So I don't know the answer to your question.
We had a fun time sitting at the table yesterday, all with people from the UK. That was the number one question that they
We're
asked.
told to ask you directly.
See, so they're lobbying. See, it's wonderful. And quite honestly, the answer is we are in London.
That's right.
We're in London right now.
Yeah.
This RootsTech truly is, at its core, it is now primarily an online event. And I'm not just being coy. Of course, we are so blessed we get to do both. And now we're on premise as well as online. But we are really putting together as much as we can for London and everywhere else. And if the on-premise were to move to another location, we were testing. One thing I love about RootsTech is we can test things. And that was a very successful test. Then the pandemic hit right after. And the next test was, we'll make it global. And that's the test that we really have our marching orders.
I think it also speaks a little bit. We view ourselves not as a competitor with all these companies. Because we're nonprofit, we don't charge for any of our services. We view ourselves as kind of the facilitator of the industry. So we're constantly looking at how do we get the industry to grow. If it's going to London, then let's look at that. If it's an online event, let's look at that. But how do we expand the industry? Because a growing industry benefits us. We are the ones that ultimately win. And so we're looking at all ways.
Any questions? I just stepped away from it.
They didn't jump on the fact that you had left. That was.
They stayed right
The
on.
teacher's out of the room.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your questions.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for all you're doing here. We really appreciate it. Getting the word out.